Pointless discussion. Welcome to the 15th Floor, a Radiohead reaction podcast where a Gen X father tries to convince his Gen Z son that Radiohead is the greatest band of all time by introducing him to Radiohead music one song at a time. He reacts for the first time, and I react for however many times I've heard the song, and I get to talk about the songs that I love from the band that is the greatest band of all time, Radiohead. We just did Do I Want to Know from Arctic Monkeys. I thought that was really good. Jacob liked it too. I'm going to get into a little more Arctic Monkeys myself. We'll see when I have time this summer. Why am I wearing long sleeves? Yikes. As we're trying to always balance out doing songs that people would enjoy watching reactions to, but with the fact that we are going to hit every Radiohead song, sometimes I know there will be ones that just aren't going to get a lot of traction with the YouTube viewership. However, I think this song is beautiful. It's an old song. From 1993's Pablo Honey, we're doing Lurgee, the original album, 1993's Pablo Honey. Of course, it's the beginning, it's the genesis, but there's no sign in that first record of what this band is going to become, I don't think. I really enjoy Pablo Honey. I can listen to Pablo Honey straight through. I mean, I can do that with every album, so it's not saying much. But it's not there's no skips. There's nothing that is new, exotic, challenging. The band eventually wants to distance themselves from that album. Even to the point that by the time they're really done touring the Bends, and especially when they begin touring OK Computer in 1997, they really have left everything from Pablo Honey off of their live sets, only occasionally hitting a song here and there, except Creep, which of course they had to keep playing in spite of their desire to not play it anymore, and occasionally, all the way even until 98, maybe even 99, and maybe even beyond, they have played Lurgee. So this is a beautiful song. We won't talk much about it. The people who suggested Lurgee are no one. Nobody suggested Lurgee. It's from Pablo Honey, and all those suggestions are really from more recent albums, but we're hitting them all, and I love this song, so... Yeah, you gotta love that falsetto where he gets up and builds up and builds up and builds up to that falsetto. I like, that's Tom York not doing a Tom York falsetto. It's Tom York doing his natural falsetto, his non-performance falsetto, his I'm trying to make a record, leave me alone falsetto. Please pay attention to me and give me another opportunity to make another album falsetto.
good stuff.
You have expressed your dislike toward long outros, or you don't particularly love that, and I would say that my criticism, my only criticism of Lurgee through the years has been that it is an AA structured song with a long outro. I've always wanted there to be another, even if it's another A. I don't need. I've always wanted there to be one more verse. Maybe a heavier verse, but it's a beautiful song. I say that about all their music, of course, but this one's really beautiful. This is before Tom York is doing anything extreme with his voice. He's just trying to fit in early '90s medium pop rock, Brit pop, and he's got a great voice. He does go up into that falsetto. This song builds up and builds up and builds up until it crescendos over that falsetto, and it's beautiful, beautifully done. It is like a lot of Pablo Honey, kind of trapped in time a little bit. It sounds like it's from the early '90s or maybe even the late '80s. I'm impressed that they were willing to keep playing it, and there are some very good live versions. They definitely lose themselves properly in the outro. Lyrically, this is as straightforward as Radiohead gets. Lurgee is British slang for a disease, an infectious disease. It doesn't describe any particular disease, and the disease here is maybe infectious or I mean, he's saying he's gotten better. He feels better now that somebody is out of his life. So that's the disease, is that type of love, and now he feels better. And now he got strong because that person. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing sinister about the lyrics at all. What do you think of the song?
It's one of those songs that I know is a good song, but I never feel like I will ever listen to it on my free time. Maybe when I heard the song, it was like a car ride type of song.
Okay.
It's like 2 minutes minus the outro, because when it's the outro, I just skip it basically.
Even if the song you like, sometimes once you've gotten through the meat of it, will you skip that outro? You'll skip the musical outro.
I usually just the song because the outros are never really good, not interesting. They're always just kind of the same rhythm. Yeah,
there's no solo in there or anything like that. It's there's 3 guitars layered over themselves, and a little bit of a bass and a little bit of a drum beat. If I introduce somebody to Radiohead using this song, I don't think I would get anybody who said, "Boy, yeah, show me more of that." But I will say, I think this is a beautiful song. The last video we did with a Radiohead reaction, I did ask everybody if they could see Radiohead in any time period in a live concert, what would they like to see? And most people said something relatively recent, or at least since Hail to the Thief. Nobody really went before that, except I did get one person who said I'd really like to see them in that Pablo Honey The Benz phase, because that's 90s rock, and I get that. It's a completely different concert. I saw them twice during that phase, and it is a completely different concert. If I want to go to Radiohead and feel how much their music has impacted my life to a point of tears to my eyes, that's the era I want to go see. If I went to a Radiohead concert and they played Lurgee, I would probably weep. And that's okay. That song is just beautiful to me, and it holds so much emotion in my memory that when I hear it, it isn't just another Radiohead song. It is the early 90s to me. It is what was going on in my life in the early 90s. It is my friends in the early 90s. It is the other music I listened to in the early 90s. It is the car I drove in the early 90s. It is my girlfriends in the early 90s. It is a snapshot of my life and I'm a sentimental person. If you take me to a snapshot of my life or a recess in my memory that I have not explored in some time, you will get true emotion from me. And that song does that to me every time. That Johnny Greenwood riff right after the I got better, I got strong. Right after the falsetto note, you hear that little riff. Every time I hear that, I love playing that on the piano. I love just goofing around with that little bit right there because that music has a place in my in the brain of my heart. Ha! Oh boy. Should I keep that in?
If you also keep in the part where you just made fun of yourself for saying that.
Okay. Because I don't mind. It ain't no thing. If I want to feel those emotions, if I want to have that experience, I would see old school Radiohead, and I would love every second of it. But I would be less. I would be more still and more in tune with what the music was making me feel. If I saw Radiohead anytime after Kid A, but especially after In Rainbows, then I would be there for the presentation. I'd be there to watch them do their thing. I would be much more involved in watching the individuals in the band, the feeling of the crowd around me. It would be much more of a collective experience to me, whereas old school Radiohead would be a very personal experience to me. And that song is very personal to me. I don't care if you don't like Pablo Honey. I don't care if you don't like Lurgee. That's a pretty song. And I think if you were to watch a movie one day and this were on the soundtrack, you'd be like, oh yeah, I like that song. The way a James Taylor song does that for my generation. If you're watching a movie and a James Taylor song comes on, it might do the movie a disservice because you're going to stop paying attention to the movie and you're going to remember, oh, I really like James Taylor.
I feel like if I grew up in this time, it would have the same effect for me than Keen does when in the car. Because every time I hear Keen when I'm not in the... Like, Keen is like my go-to in the car playlist, song, band. And I feel like this would definitely be... Like, if I grew up in your time, I would play this in the car. And then every time I hear it outside of the car, I would just... I'm traveling. Traveling somewhere far.
I will say I have heard this song maybe several dozen times while in the car, and it is always a rock concert. I will always sing it out loud and proud, and maybe even shed a tear while I'm doing that. It's a beautiful song. I love Tom York's vocals in it. I love that he's vulnerable. I love that he's not sure of himself. I love that he's touching a subject that he would prefer probably not to touch and doesn't really go back to very often, certainly not as directly. And I think anybody my age, if you don't know this song and you heard it now, you'd say, that's a good song. If you are a Gen Xer, if you were born before 1980, and you don't... Yeah, tell me what you think of Lurgee. Tell me what you've always thought of Lurgee. I'd like to hear if it's been on your Radiohead radar, or if it's just one of those that you have to just get through. And also a Gen Zer. I'd love to hear what Gen Z, what newer Radiohead fans, people who fell in love with Radiohead through A Moon-Shaped Pool or Hail to the Thief or something like that, or In Rainbows, what they think when they go back and hear a straight ballad that doesn't fit those other albums at all. I'd like to know. What would you give Lurgee as a score?
6.5.
6.5. Oh, that was lower than I thought you'd give it. Even though I know what you just said about it, I know, yeah.
I'm sorry to break your heart.
Disappointing. Yeah, it's let's see how the kids felt about it. Of course, the kids ask me immediately, what does Lurgee mean? I'm not about ready to tell them what Lurgee is, because that means their artwork will only be about that. Mm-hmm. So I really needed them to draw what they felt like it was. His drawing, once again, he's really got the speed thing down. He had this drawn before, I think, the first I Got Better, I Got Strong. It says, "You are Lurgee," and the other guy says, "What?" Which is pretty appropriate. I mean, he was really wanting me to tell him what Lurgee means. And then her just says, "Feeling good. I feel better." If you don't think too hard about those lyrics, that's probably, it almost sounds a little positive, you know? I feel better. I got strong. I got better. And they are positive lyrics, but it's positive because I got better because the disease in my life, is now out of my life. If you could pick a song from Pablo Honey that Radiohead would readdress in the style that they do their music now, that they could reinvent a song from Pablo Honey to A Moon-Shaped Pool or The King of Limbs, or even In Rainbows, in that style, what song would you like to see them completely go back to and reinvent? I'd like to know that. I think that's that would be an interesting. I'll try to comment. I usually try to go through all the comments and respond to people, and but I'll try to catch your comments and see what you guys are saying. I really like what people say when we ask those types of questions. Thanks for watching. Even when you see that it's a song from Pablo Honey, thanks for clicking. Thanks for liking. Share it with your friends. Get the world to like Pablo Honey. The world needs a little bit more Pablo Honey right now. Ignore the awful title of that album. I'm sure that's one of those things I'm sure Radiohead just sighs when they think, yeah, we named it after a Jerky Boys gag. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, send it to all your Radiohead friends, send it to all your music friends, whether they know Radiohead or not. Continue to love one another. Keep listening to music together. You're now leaving
the 15th floor.